Welcome YouTube and welcome Israel to the second episode of i4i After Dark. I'm your host Ari, aka i4i, and today we're going to talk about 12 things about the Rambam they didn't know, probably. So anyway, let's get started and not waste too much time. Number 1. Now we know that the Rambam was halachic authority. We know he had medical authority, but what we didn't know is that he talked about hemorrhoids, sexual diseases. These were some of the issues the Rambam dealt with, and it may sound weird coming from such a big rabbi, but that's the truth, and we still follow by some of his practices today concerning those subjects. Number 2, the Rambam taught his students that just in case he was murdered and chopped up, he taught them how to piece him back together. Whether or not this ever happened, the Rambam was killed, is actually a rumor, and the rumor goes around that his students actually put him back together and he was brought back to life. This is all unfounded, but what we do know is that when the Rambam took over his spot as the Sultan's doctor, we know that the doctor before him brought a challenge to him, like in The Princess Bride, where he was trying to trick him with poison. I don't know if you guys remember the movie. Inconceivable, but the Rambam actually outsmarted him, and he died. Number 3, who was the Rambam's emperor that they're always talking about? The Rambam served the king of Egypt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that man was Salah ad-Din Ayyubi, and he was the one who defeated Richard the Lionheart in the Third Crusade and captured Jerusalem. If you want to know more about him, you can check out my favorite movie of all time, Kingdom of Heaven, where he plays a huge role, and they even kind of hint about, him having good doctors. Number 4, the Rambam wrote the Mishnah Torah, and he was criticized by rabbis for a multitude of things, but one of those things was that there was no footnotes on the Mishnah Torah, and this upset a lot of people. They didn't have backed up research. Number 6, the Rambam was quoted as saying that if you study the Tanakh and my Mishnah Torah, that's all you need. This was just on top of all the other things that upset the rabbis at that time, including the Ani Mamin, which was considered a cliff notes to Torah, and by him saying that, he's saying that they don't need to learn other Torah other than the Mishnah Torah that he had wrote in the Tanakh. It caused a lot of controversy at that time. Number 6, there's a debate on where the Rambam is buried. Some Muslims think that they still have the body of the Rambam. We know it's in Tiberia, but what we may not have known was that the Rambam's body was led by a donkey, and that wherever that donkey stopped, that would be the place that he would be buried. That place, ladies and gentlemen, is in Tiberia. I don't know if you've been there. I've been there. You know he's there. And there's just a lot of controversy about where he's buried. Number 7. Now we know that the Rambam is buried in Tiberia. We've all davened there. Well, not all of us, but soon by you. And I miss Eretz Yisrael a lot. But what we may not know is that the Rambam's son is actually also buried there, and he was also a holy man. So next time you're at the kever, make sure to say Kapitel Tehillim by the Rebbe and by his son. Number 8, the Goyim built a statue for him. They loved him. The Muslims loved him. The Christians loved him. There's actually a statue of him in Spain on a chair that some have referred to as a flying boat, that the Rambam was able to actually fly in the sky long before airplanes existed. That I'm not so sure of, but what we do know is that he was considered a very important person to all religions all around the world. Number 9, the Rambam spent a year in bed depressed because his brother had died while conducting business at sea. This is before the Rambam became a doctor. They were business partners, and his brother went to get materials from India and actually died at sea, and the Rambam was bedridden and couldn't get out of bed for a very long time, which I'm told is a year. And this just shows the humanity of the rabbis, how we're all just people, and it's actually a beautiful thing. Number 11, prayer prepositions. Now, nowadays we always see when we're at the doctor that they have a special prayer, but the Rambam is actually the one that put that into effect. And the reason why we have a prayer for physicians today is because the Rambam is the one that created it. He's behind so many amazing things that it's hard to keep track of. Number 11. There's a rumor going around that when the Rambam was young, he actually was forcefully converted to Islam, and he was definitely dressed as an Arab. Whether or not he was converted as a little boy, I'm not so sure, but there's a rumor going around that he spent almost a decade of his youth undercover as an Arab just to escape death, because at that time it was a dangerous time to be a Jew, because Jews refused to say the Islamic national anthem at that time. I just want to include that there's also a rumor going around that when the Rambam died, that the Muslims actually converted him after death. Back then, they used to do conversion after death, like Mormons do today. Um, I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's the rumor going around, was that he was converted before and after. He was obviously very cherished by Muslim people, and there's just a lot of controversy and debate on whether or not these stories are accurate. Number 12. The reason why people always say, "Oh, you're allowed to go to a mosque. You're allowed to go to a mosque." The Rambam was the reason behind that. Before that, you were not allowed to go into a mosque, and you were not allowed to, like, be involved in. Basically, they were treating Islam like paganism, and the Rambam is the one that said that they worship the one God. You're allowed to daven in a mosque, and he was actually seen as an adult davening in a mosque just to, like, settle things. The Rambam created a lot of peace between Jews and Muslims at that time, and he created a lot of leeway for Jews, and we wouldn't be who we are today, or necessarily have survived that time in the world without him. And I'm going to leave off with a quote from the Rambam, where he actually said that everybody is born in their correct time, which is interesting, that we're all born in the era that we're supposed to be born in, and it took 300 years for the Rambam's Animamin to be taken into effect, because it was considered Cliff Notes of Torah, and I couldn't live without the Animamins. And I want to thank the Rambam, and I want to thank you, YouTube, and I'll see you guys soon for the next episode of 7 superheroes of the Bible you may not have heard of. Probably. See you later.